and welcome to my channel. Today you'll be seeing a beginner-friendly illustration using Graphmaster 108 alcohol marker set. So for this illustration, I'm using Canson graduate manga paper, which is about 200 GSM. So by saying beginner-friendly illustration, this will be a whimsical drawing of a girl. For Graphmaster 108 alcohol marker set, these markers are slightly shorter compared to the Ohuhu Honolulu markers. They only come with chisel and bullet nib. Compared to the Ohuhu markers, which have the bullet nib, this Graphmaster alcohol markers nib point is extremely small. Hence, this is an advantage for the user as it can really reach very tiny areas. When I was swatching these colors, the markers didn't seem to be too dry. But when I began working on this A4 sized illustration, for certain colors, both ends were extremely dry. And the strange thing was, I had been storing them horizontally in the case that they came in. Colors like peach, yellows, oranges, and pinks were really dry, especially for the chisel ends. But for the rest, the chisel ends were juicy and their bullet nibs were okay. So if you mainly draw faces and portraits, perhaps this might be a challenge, but if you can choose the right marker paper and if you work with multiple layers using these colors, I believe that you will be able to achieve the look that you want by the end of your illustration. So for myself, even for this illustration, I had to use multiple coats, multiple layers to remove the streakiness of the strokes on the paper. So this paper has been really good when I really did some heavy-handed shading and layering. Even when the paper was a bit damp from the previous layers, the paper really held up. There was no peeling, tearing or buckling of the paper. So using a good marker paper is just so important, as although it is good to have a good working alcohol marker or even any other art supplies, you can only achieve the best result if you pair them with a good paper. So if I had paired these markers with a lighter marker paper or a paper that could easily be torn, then I definitely wouldn't have been able to achieve these many layers of marker ink. If you own Touchmaster markers, and which is a similar budget brand, then I would say that those are really juicy compared to these markers. For those markers, when I'm working on an illustration, I can't even uncap the markers next to the illustration. I literally have to wheel away from the table and then open the markers, because sometimes when you're opening the markers, there'll be a spritz of marker ink. That's how juicy they are. When you are to open these markers, you wouldn't get an experience like that. There won't be any spritz of marker ink flying out or landing on your illustration or on your fingers. But if you're using Touchmaster markers, that is something that you should need to take note of. So for the Touchmaster markers, the largest set comprises of 262 colors. If you are interested to see a comparison, do let me know in the comments below. Price-wise, these markers cost me $36 for 108 markers, which is definitely very cheap compared to other budget markers that are out there in the market. If you are a beginner, or if you're someone on a tight budget but still would like to play with a wide range of alcohol markers, then you can give these markers a try. If you have used any good budget-friendly alcohol marker sets that you can recommend to the fellow viewers, go ahead and drop the names in the comments below. For the background, at first I wanted to leave it white. Then I just wanted to check if these markers' chisel ends are juicy enough to color the background. Hence, I colored the entire background with a few layers. So, this is the finished look. I hope you have enjoyed watching this illustration process. Do give this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your support. I appreciate you. Till then, see you in my next video. Bye.